Alright, welcome back for another ranked multiplayer match. I'm doing a replay cast here because of the latency during the match. So we're playing as Khorne, got a Demon Prince of Khorne as our Lord, and a ton of Chaos Warriors and Marauders as our starting force. Our opponent is playing as the Dwarfs. He's got Thorek Ironbrow as his Lord. A lot of miners with blasting charges, Quarrelers, Grudge Throwers, Iron Drakes with Troll Hammer torpedoes, and that's mostly it. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit for the advance. You got some shots off from the Grudge Thrower on some Marauders. I think mostly that squad of Marauders, maybe some other infantry. And so here we go. So starting off, I was going to go for all 3 points and try to use mobility against the Dwarves, but he wasn't sending anything towards point 3, so I basically just sent one squad of Marauders and then rerouted everyone on that side towards the middle. So immediately I figured that he didn't have too much support for these miners on this side, so I'm going to send Flesh Hounds and Chaos Furies out, and I also brought another squad of Chaos Furies. One of these, I believe, ends up going after the Grudge Throwers. Let's see here. Demon Prince, I rerouted him back over this way because I figured he was just going to get shot up if I send him towards the middle. There's nothing to do on point 3, and these miners have no support that's going to be able to do much against him. They basically do anything against him, other than maybe the blasting charge guys. A little bit of mismanagement from the Flesh Hounds. I need to get them charging in here earlier, but you can see one squad of Furies going over here to jump on the Grudge Throwers. He's got some Dwarf Warriors coming to fend them off. Front line is mostly just getting shot up. Quarrelers, Thunder's coming around to get some flanking shots. Thorek is getting in the mix in the front, and it's basically what's going on. You can see he's brought on some miners with blasting charges on the right side. They're going to be going after these Marauders. So I figured I'm just going to charge them and not sit still. Try to make it a little bit more of a difficult target to toss those grenades at, or blasting charges, I guess. Someone might think I'm like betraying the Warhammer world by calling them grenades, but Demon Prince charging over. I realized that those blasting charge guys were going to cause a problem, so I tried to interrupt them with a charge from my Demon Prince, but I was a little bit late on that, so the Flesh Hounds really took a beating there, and yeah, you can see they're unstable and they're crumbling, or whatever you call it. Yeah, they're suffering from demonic instability, I guess is the debuff that they face. But the good thing is that the Demon Prince over here is cleaving through the miners. The Furies are helping to clean them out as well. And the Marauders and I guess these are both Marauder squads, they're both doing decent. Got another squad of Flesh Hounds coming over here. They're actually going to loop around and go the other way. I wanted to try to get a flank with them without running down this side, so maybe my opponent would be less attentive to them charging in there. So terror routes going down from the miners and whatnot, and you see the Marauders on this side took pretty hefty damage. Luckily they're lightly armored, so the armor piercing weapon strength on the miners with blasting charges isn't doing too much against them, but eventually they're going to lose that fight. They got some long beards with great weapons on the way to support as well, and so that's what's going on. The Flesh Hounds made it in. I ended up having them jump on top of the Iron Drakes with the Troll Hammer torpedo. I figured they were a little bit more valuable of a target than the Thunders. Although honestly, now that I'm watching this, I'm thinking, okay, Iron Drakes are anti-large. Thunders might be more of a threat to me than these guys. But either way, Chaos Furies coming into support from this side, leaving one squad of Marauders on there, chasing these miners off with my my Lord, and then sending the remnants of these guys over to help. I had not realized that this squad of miners ran off to the side and they rallied, so they might end up coming back in here. Minotaurs of Khorne on the way. They're going to try to jump on top of the Thunders, and pretty messy over here in the middle. I did have some Chaos Warriors who were originally going up point 3 that they came through this area, I believe, and that's where you can see these guys all lined up against the Longbeards and miners over here. I did manage to get some Bloodletters and surround Thorek Ironbrow, so that is not a situation he's going to do well in. These guys are going to cut through his armor. They've got anti-infantry armor piercing, and very good trade for me there. You can see my opponent is still ahead on the value trading overall, but could be worse. Our Lord's going to jump on top of the Iron Drakes, and that is a juicy target for him. He's got really good weapon damage. He's got anti-infantry on him. Unfortunately, there's some giant slayers coming over to support, and I believe there might be some standard slayers. No, these are just dwarf warriors, but giant slayers nonetheless are going to be pretty gnarly against the demon prince. You can already see him taking some chunks of damage. There are some more slayers on the way. Looks like 2 squads of them coming downhill. And at this point, I was like, all right, I need to get my lord out of there. There's all these quarrelers. He doesn't have a lot of armor. There's giant slayers and 2 squads of normal slayers on the way. And it's just not a good value trade for me sitting in there. So I realized he could come help out with finishing off Thorek. And if I can kill him and get him off the field, I can damage their morale. And the Dwarfs usually are pretty high morale troops overall. So Marauder Horsemen of Khorne with throwing axes coming over here to respond to the Longbeards and the Miners on this side. Another squad of them coming. And again, this is one of those situations where, just like when I brought Fleshhounds and my Lord over to the left side because it was all Miners, they didn't have any response to that. Same thing's going on over here. They don't have a way to deal with the Marauder Horsemen. They don't have pace, they don't have range fire, or whatever else over here. So these guys are sitting ducks, and they're just going to try to fight for some capture weight. So throwing axes going down. Our Lord came in here and just finished off Thorek. And let's see what we get into next. So I think at this point I had realized that point 2 was just a lost cause. There's no way I'm gonna pick up momentum and take this area right now. I've only got 900 supplies to bring in reinforcements, and I'm doing good over on this side. I did end up sending my Minotaurs. Instead of charging after the Thunders, who were their original target, I rerouted them this way, and for the same reason as I was just talking about. There was no counters over here for the Minotaurs, and they were going to be strong against the troops that were on this side. So Chaos Furies coming over here to jump on top of the Slayers. I did not want the Slayers to get free reign over the Minotaurs. I guess I could probably outrun them, but I figured that was a good use of these guys. Minotaurs charging into the Dwarf Warriors, just getting some of that anti-infantry power in. Another grudge thrower coming off of my opponent. I can't remember if I chased off the original one or if he unsummoned them, but he's got a Thane coming in reinforcement as well, and he's got a pretty hefty force over here holding the middle area. So he's got 3 Quarrelers, he's got Thunders, he's still got some Miners and Giant Slayers and Standard Slayers, and looks like Longbeards and Dwarf Warriors chasing some of my infantry off the field. Now the good thing is that I'm starting to get capture weight on a point 3, charging in with the Marauder Horsemen just to trample these Miners and Longbeards that are running, and getting tower outs with the Demon Prince. And the good thing is, this guy, he causes terror, and because I was able to get Thorek off the field, the terror kicks in quicker because of the leadership penalty that these guys are facing from having the Lord that died. So I wonder if it shows. I guess it's not showing it in the replay, but I think in the match you can see how these guys' morale is getting influenced. Actually, okay, there you go. Lord dead, so -10. So I guess the Slayers, because they're unbreakable, they don't suffer from that. That's what was going on. But yeah, basically his whole army is facing -10 leadership because of Thorek being dead. And if you're not familiar with the rosters, Thorek was the Lord of the Dwarf Horde. So point 3 is ours, and now it's time to abandon that and get the Throwing Axemen fighting against these guys over here, Longbeards and Dwarf Warriors. Same reason, they got no response to the ranged guys, and our Demon Prince is going to follow over and help them out. Point 2, I basically completely abandoned. I did start sending 1 squad of standard Marauders over there just to make him double guess himself, and because I figured point 1, I needed to get some guys over there. I saw after I gave up on this area and he routed my troops off, he started running a bunch of guys over through this corridor to get to point 1. So I was like, okay, I'll send some Marauders over to try to hold down point 1. We'll see what we can do there, and then in the meantime, if he sends too much, I'll have some guys coming this way, and he might have to split his troops between those 2 areas. So Giant Slayers coming over here to fight with the Marauders. Standard Slayers going to get on the point, get some capture weight. Got Chaos Furies and some Fleshhounds running over here, jump on top of the shooting group. And I'm just realizing now in the replay, they actually did not have much ammunition left anyway, so I probably could have picked another target there, but either way, just getting some value off the field. And you know, the Trollhammer torpedoes if they can get shots up on the flesh hounds, they're going to do a ton of damage. So you can see him trying to pull them out of there. He's got miners with blasting charges coming. This is a unit that I am curious, like, what's the best way to deal with them as Khorne, because they are basically guaranteed to get a volley off and just do a metric fuck ton of damage to whatever infantry gets hit by them. So it's kind of an interesting situation. I don't know if you're supposed to jump them with Furies as soon as you see them or what, but that feels drastic to me given how much they cost. Either way, Minotaurs are rallying over on the backside. They had gotten chased off, so we're going to try to get them on top of the Hammers or the Grudge Throwers. We took out the infantry over here with a terror route, so we're going to run in the Marauder Horsemen and try to jump on top of this Grudge Thrower and some of the shooting over here, and our Lord will dive in as well. The Giant Slayers are just being a pain in the ass. I probably should have ran the Marauders over onto this point and had them fight there, because I have a tendency to forget that the Slayer units are unbreakable, so they're never going to run off you. You have to kill every single model. So probably would have made sense for me to kind of do some force moves and get these guys onto the point to resist the capture weight, but that's what's going on over there. You see they got Longbeards with great weapons. The Thane is rerouting over to support the Hammers, and more Furies coming in reinforcement, more Marauders coming. I stopped bringing on Chaos Warriors. I don't think I brought any Chaos Warriors on in reinforcement because I was just worried about them getting chewed up by the shooting and by the blasting charges. So I figured I might as well bring lower quality infantry. You can see we got some capture weight jumping onto point 2. Cavalry charging through the miners and the thunders and whatnot. I guess the thunders are basically, yeah, they're shattered. Our Lord is doing some work on the hammers, and this is a really good trade for me here because, well, there we go. So our opponent conceded there, but hammers are super high value. They're heavily armored, and this guy's basically built to destroy them. I can't remember if he takes extra damage from magic or what. So they definitely have the potential to give him some hurt, but ultimately, I guess my opponent realized that his Lord was off the field, and I was starting to push him back and kind of collapsed on his shooting and whatnot. He was running out of ammunition, and overall, I was starting to take the value trading. So I know the victory points, I believe they were pretty close at the end there, but I guess it was like more of a morale loss over there. So anyways, well played to my opponent. Let's take a look at the damage values and whatnot. So our Lord got 1,300 value. That's actually not as much as I would have thought, but I guess he was fighting a lot of like Dwarf Warriors, Longbeards, and mostly Miners throughout that match. So I guess that kind of makes sense. Chaos Warriors, man, they did pretty bad. Yeah, it makes me think I shouldn't have brought them. The Marauders did pretty well. You know, I wonder if instead of Chaos Warriors, if you just bring Marauders with dual weapons, that might make sense. That way, any of the shooting and artillery and whatnot, and even miners with blasting charges, don't get as much value against the infantry. The Marauders did okay. Minotaurs did pretty good. These guys cost 1,300 if I'm not mistaken, so they did good. This one squad of Bloodletters, they got so much value just from chewing on Thorek, so that was really helpful. I was worried when I saw his roster between the miners and the quarrelers and the grudge thrower and whatnot. I was worried that these guys were not going to get any value, but luckily his Lord ended up in my backfield, and so these guys were able to jump on top of him where the shooting wasn't in the best place to help him out. Fleshhounds did all right. I can't remember if I resummoned them at all. The Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes did very well. I felt like they won the right side of the map for me. So they were probably the MVPs for me. And the Furies actually got pretty good value. So, you know, between the Grudge Thrower and interrupting the Quarrelers and Thunders and things like that, they got pretty good value actually. For my opponent, Thorek didn't get too much done. He just ended up in a bad spot. Iron Drakes did very well. Grudge Thrower did okay. Thunders, nothing special. Quarrelers really shined for him. 1,000 value at least on all of them. Miners with blasting charges did decent. Thane didn't get much done. He didn't get too much activity though. Giant Slayers did well. Hammers didn't get much activity. Slayers did decent. And so I feel like, yeah, for him, the miners with blasting charges and the quarrelers really did very well. For me, the Marauder Horsemen and the Furies. So it was a fun matchup. I just realized as I'm explaining this that neither faction, I think we're the only two factions that don't have magic in this game, or Winds of Magic. So yeah, interesting matchup. Again, well played to my opponent. That was a fun match. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.